Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you is something most traders discover far too late. There is a point in your journey where the market stops punishing you with losses and starts punishing you with ignorance. Not knowing certain truths costs more than any losing trade. And tonight, we are going to uncover 5 of those truths. These are not tips. These are not shortcuts. These are the psychological shifts every profitable trader eventually makes, but almost no one recognizes until years have already been wasted and thousands have already been lost. Jesse Livermore learned these lessons through a lifetime of brilliance, fortune, collapse, and painful self-discovery. He paid for these insights with everything he ever earned and everything he ever lost. But you don't have to. Not if you listen now. If you skip this video, he promised you'll meet these lessons again. Not in a documentary, but in your own account, in your own mistakes, in your own losses. But if you stay, if you give yourself these next few minutes, you will understand something that could save you years of confusion and protect you from the traps that destroy 90% of traders before they ever truly begin. So settle in, breathe, and listen carefully, because the signs you're finally becoming a profitable trader are subtle, silent, and easy to miss. And missing them is the most expensive mistake you will ever make. Let's begin. When you no longer need to trade every day, there comes a moment in every trader's journey when the noise begins to quiet down, not because the market has changed, but because you have. In the beginning, every new trader feels the same pressure. You wake up and feel you must trade. You feel guilty when the market moves without you. You feel anxious when you're not inside a position. You feel as if not trading means falling behind. You see every candle as an invitation, every movement as an opportunity, every quiet moment as a threat. But one day, almost quietly, that feeling begins to disappear. Jesse Livermore described this shift better than anyone. He said there was a time in his early career when not trading felt like suffocating. But later, when he matured, not trading felt like breathing. That shift, that turning point, is the first real sign a trader is becoming profitable. It begins when you look at the market in the morning, and instead of asking, "What can I trade today?" you ask, "Is there anything worth trading today?" That one change, that one question, separates amateurs from operators. And the truth is, you don't even notice the evolution at first. It happens slowly, like seasons changing. One week you feel restless when the market is slow. The next week you feel normal. Then one day you realize something incredible. Your mind no longer needs action to feel alive. This is the moment when silence becomes tolerable, when quiet becomes meaningful, when doing nothing becomes a skill. Livermore believed that patience was not something you force. Patience was something you become. And the trader who has become patient doesn't need the market to move every day. You stop equating activity with progress. You stop equating the number of trades with the quality of your work. You begin to understand that the market is not a machine built for your income. It is an environment, and your job is to wait until that environment matches your advantage. When this understanding settles in your mind, something profound happens. The pressure leaves your chest. The compulsion fades. The rush to act dissolves. And for the first time, you begin to see the market clearly. You no longer stare at charts trying to find a trade. You simply observe. You wait. You let the market reveal itself. And when it does, you don't feel excited. You feel prepared. Livermore used to sit for hours, sometimes entire days, with no trades at all. New traders around him thought he had lost his nerve. Some thought he had lost his edge. But he hadn't. He was sharpening something more important than any position he could place. He was sharpening his judgment. He once said, "It was never my thinking that made me the big money. It was my sitting." People quote that line, but very few understand what it means. Sitting doesn't mean waiting inside a trade. Sitting means waiting for the right trade to appear. It means resisting the urge to control what cannot be controlled. It means giving the market enough space to tell the truth, instead of begging it to confirm your bias. When you begin to experience this for yourself, when you feel the power of waiting, you discover the first true sign of profitability. You are no longer led by impulse. You are led by clarity. Your sessions become calmer. Your chart time becomes shorter but more meaningful. Your emotional swings shrink. Your confidence grows from discipline, not from outcome. You begin to respect the market's rhythm instead of fighting it. Beginners enter the market like tourists running into traffic. But the trader who no longer needs to trade every day moves like a local who knows when the street is safe and when it will kill you. This shift is not about being conservative. It is about being aware. Livermore said that the most expensive trait in a trader is the inability to wait for the right moment. Without this shift, all other skills collapse. You can know every setup, every indicator, every strategy, but if you cannot wait, you cannot win. There is a kind of peace that comes from this evolution. You stop feeling punished by the days you don't trade. You see them as days that protected you, days when the market had nothing to offer, and you respected that truth. You also stop caring about what other traders are doing. You don't feel the need to compete. You don't feel the need to compare. The only thing that matters is whether the market is aligned with your edge. This is the maturity that every profitable trader eventually discovers. The less you trade, the more you understand. And the more you understand, the less you need to trade. You begin treating your time like your capital. You stop wasting it. You stop throwing it at random opportunities. You reserve it for the moments that deserve it. This is the first real sign you're becoming profitable. Not the money, not the gains, not the screenshots, but the quiet mornings where you look at the market and calmly say to yourself, "Not today." That simple phrase is the voice of maturity. It is the voice of patience. It is the voice of a trader who has finally let go of fear and stepped into clarity. Livermore believed that the trader who masters waiting has already mastered half the game, and he was right, because the trader who does not need to trade every day is the trader who finally understands what the market has been trying to teach all along. Profit does not reward activity. It rewards correctness. And correctness comes only from calm, from clarity, from the silence you used to fear, but now finally trust. And that's when everything begins to change. When you respect small losses like they matter. There comes a point in every trader's journey where losses stop feeling like emergencies and start feeling like information. A small loss no longer shakes you. It no longer feels like proof that you're failing. It no longer feels personal. It simply becomes part of the cost of doing business, part of the rhythm, part of the process. This shift is subtle. It doesn't happen in a single day. It happens quietly, almost invisibly, over time. You wake up one morning, take a small loss, and realize something has changed. Your heart doesn't race. Your mind doesn't spiral. You don't fight it or analyze it endlessly or feel the urge to revenge trade. You simply accept it and move on. Jesse Livermore believed that this was one of the defining marks of a real trader. He wrote that the professional trader is not the one who never loses. It is the one who accepts losses without emotional damage. He said, "The first loss is the cheapest. The small loss is the tuition. The large loss is the ego." Most traders never reach this level. They cling to bad trades, hoping to turn them around. They average down because they cannot accept being wrong. They hold losers because they don't want to admit the mistake. They fight the market because they are fighting their own reflection. And in doing so, they turn what should have been a small inconvenience into a life-changing setback. But the trader who is finally becoming profitable, the trader whose mind has matured, begins to see losses differently. They are no longer punishments. They are signals. They are messages. They are tiny whispers from the market saying, "That wasn't the right time. That wasn't the right place. That wasn't the right idea." And instead of resisting, you listen. There is a kind of dignity in taking a small loss with no hesitation, a kind of steadiness, a kind of inner authority. It shows that you are no longer driven by ego. You are driven by clarity. The small loss becomes a mark of discipline, a sign of strength, a reminder that you are willing to pay a small price to avoid a catastrophe. In fact, you begin to take pride in it. Most people brag about their wins, but the mature trader feels proudest on the days they cut the loss early and protected themselves from their own impulses. Livermore called this the quiet courage of survival. He believed that the ability to cut a losing trade quickly was not a mechanical skill, but a character trait. He watched hundreds of traders around him, and he realized that the ones who failed were not the ones who had bad analysis. They were the ones who had bad pride. They couldn't accept being wrong. They couldn't endure the sting of a loss. They couldn't step back when the market contradicted them. So the small losses grew and grew and grew until the damage became irreversible. The profitable trader learns to prevent that avalanche by cutting early, sometimes before the pain, sometimes before the evidence is overwhelming, sometimes before the market even shows its full hand. They cut not because they lack confidence, but because they understand risk. There is a moment in your evolution when you place a stop loss and it no longer feels like a restriction. It feels like protection. It feels like freedom. It feels like a promise you kept to yourself. The trader who respects the small loss begins to think differently. You begin to ask yourself, what is the worst that can happen if I'm wrong? Instead of, how much can I make if I'm right? This shift in focus is the beginning of maturity. It means your mindset has expanded. It means you are finally thinking like a risk manager instead of a gambler. Livermore believed that the small loss serves a spiritual purpose as much as a financial one. It teaches humility. It teaches patience. It teaches respect for uncertainty. It teaches you that no matter how intelligent you are never bigger than the market. When you finally absorb that lesson, you begin to embrace the small loss as a companion rather than an enemy. Every small loss is a reminder that you are participating in a game where perfection is impossible. It shows that you are aligned with reality instead of fighting it. There is another layer to this evolution. You stop replaying the loss in your mind. You stop obsessing over what could have been. You stop torturing yourself with alternative timelines. Most people lose twice. First, when the loss hits their account, and second, when it hits their thoughts. But the profitable trader loses only once. Your mind becomes lighter. The loss becomes self-contained. It ends where it ends. It does not follow you. It does not control you. It does not define you. And in that space, in that calm, in that neutrality, you begin to see opportunities more clearly because your mind is no longer clouded by regret. Livermore said that regret was the most expensive emotion a trader could feel. It distracts. It distorts. It demands attention you cannot afford to give. The trader who respects the small loss escapes this trap. You begin to see yourself differently. You start noticing that you no longer feel ashamed of cutting a trade. You no longer feel embarrassed when you are wrong. You begin to treat loss as part of the craft, instead of an indictment of your skill. This is not weakness. It is wisdom, because the truth is, you cannot control the market. You cannot control volatility. You cannot control the news, or the crowd, or the flow of liquidity. But you can control the loss. You can choose how small it is. You can choose how quickly you take it. You can choose whether it is a scratch or a scar. The profitable trader makes that choice before the market does. There is a moment in this transformation where you feel something almost shocking. You take a loss and feel nothing. No panics, no frustration, just acceptance, just neutrality, just the steady continuation of your work. This is not a lack of emotion. This is emotional mastery. It is the moment Livermore said, a trader becomes comfortable with discomfort. When you reach this state, small losses become like exhaling. Natural, necessary, healthy. You stop running from them. You stop resenting them. You stop reacting to them. And when this happens, something beautiful begins to occur. Your large losses disappear, not because you never make mistakes, but because you never allow mistakes to grow into disasters. Your entire risk profile changes. Your drawdowns shrink. Your equity curve smooths. Your stress drops. Your clarity rises. And without even realizing it, you start becoming the kind of trader who survives long enough to succeed. Livermore believed that every great trader is simply a collection of small, well-managed losses, interrupted by the occasional great win. The trader who respects the small loss is a trader who will last, and the trader who lasts will eventually prosper. This is the second sign you are finally becoming profitable, not the size of your wins, but the grace with which you accept being wrong, because that grace is the foundation of every future victory. When you add only when you're right, there is a moment in a trader's evolution when something inside begins to shift. You stop trying to force the market to agree with you, and you start letting the market prove itself first. This is one of the strongest signs you are becoming a profitable trader. You add to winning trades, and you refuse to add to losing ones. It sounds simple. It sounds obvious, but almost no one does it, because doing it requires a level of emotional maturity that most traders never reach. Jesse Livermore built his entire fortune on this one transformation. He used to say, "A man adds to proof, never to hope." He believed that the market rewards obedience to evidence, not attachment to opinion. In his early years, Livermore made the same mistake everyone makes. He added to losing trades. He averaged down. He defended bad decisions with bigger decisions. He tried to rescue his ideas instead of rescuing his capital, and every time he did it, the market taught him a painful lesson. A small mistake becomes a big one the moment you feed it with more size. But something changed as he matured. He realized that adding to a losing trade was nothing more than an attempt to negotiate with reality. It was ego trying to rewrite the story, because the truth felt uncomfortable. He noticed that hope was expensive, while confirmation was cheap. When this realization settles inside you, you begin to behave differently. You begin to understand that a losing trade doesn't deserve more of your capital, and it certainly doesn't deserve more of your trust. You stop thinking, "I need to fix this," and start thinking, "This idea did not earn the right to grow." This shift is profound. It changes the architecture of your entire trading approach. Suddenly, your worst trades become small, and your best trades become big. Not because you become smarter, but because you stop rewarding failure and start rewarding correctness. There is a kind of peace in this behavior. You no longer feel compelled to fight the market. You no longer feel the urge to double down out of fear. Your ego becomes quieter. Your decision-making becomes cleaner. And every choice you make feels aligned with discipline rather than emotion. Livermore believed that adding to a winning trade was not about greed. It was about synchronization. It meant your idea was aligned with the market's behavior. It meant you and the tape were speaking the same language. He didn't add because he was excited. He added because the price action confirmed that he was right to begin with. There is a moment when the market says, through its behavior, "I agree with you." And that is when the professional trades. Not before. Never before. You begin to notice this in yourself. When you look at a trade going your way, and you feel calm rather than euphoric. You don't rush to take profit. You let the move breathe. You let it prove its strength. And when you add, you don't do it recklessly. You do it with the quiet confidence of someone who waits for confirmation instead of craving excitement. Adding to a winner requires humility. You must accept that the market knows more than you do. You must allow the tape to guide you instead of trying to guide the tape. Beginners crave control. Professionals seek alignment. When you begin adding only when you're right, you are no longer trying to predict. You are responding. You are cooperating with momentum. You are joining the strength instead of hoping for a reversal. This marks a new level of consciousness in trading. Your patience increases. Your sensitivity to noise decreases. You begin noticing that winning trades have a certain feel, a certain smoothness, a certain clarity that losing trades never have. You begin recognizing strength before the breakout. You begin recognizing weakness before the collapse. Your intuition sharpens because it is no longer clouded by ego. It is aligned with data. It is aligned with discipline. It is aligned with the simple truth that price is the only vote that matters. There is something else that happens. As you evolve into this behavior, you lose your fear of missing out. You begin to believe deeply that if a trade deserves more size, the market will make it obvious. You don't chase. You wait. And when the signal comes, you don't hesitate. You act with decisiveness. Livermore used to say, "You add when you're right, and you never add when you're wrong." He said it with such conviction because it was a rule that had saved him from ruin more times than he could count. Every time he followed it, He protected his future. Every time he violated it, he paid a price. The trader who adds to losing trades does not understand risk, but the trader who adds only to winners understands something deeper, the difference between confidence and pride. This is the quiet elegance of mature trading behavior. You begin to treat size as a reward for correctness instead of a weapon against loss. You treat confirmation as the foundation of confidence instead of speculation. You treat the market not as an opponent to defeat, but as a partner to follow. This is one of the clearest signs that you are becoming profitable. You no longer protect your ideas. You protect your equity. You no longer defend your ego. You defend your process. And in doing so, your winners grow. Your losers shrink. Your stress dissolves. Your clarity improves. And your results begin to reflect the maturity of your decision. Livermore believed that this shift was what separated the ordinary trader from the operator. The operator is not someone who trades brilliantly. The operator is someone who builds positions like a craftsman, carefully, responsibly, with full awareness of risk and complete respect for truth. When you add only when you're right, your entire identity begins to change. You feel more stable, more grounded, more selective. You lose interest in chaos and begin to crave order. Inside that craving for order lies the true beginning of consistency. Eventually, you will look back on the days you used to average down and wonder how you ever believed that forcing the market could create anything other than pain. You will realize that profitability was never about the perfect strategy. It was about the evolution of judgment, the strength of restraint, the humility to follow the tape instead of fighting it. And when this transformation takes hold, you stop getting in your own way. You stop sabotaging your progress. You stop feeding losing trades with hope, and you begin feeding winning trades with confidence. This is when the market finally starts rewarding you, because you are no longer trying to dominate it. You are finally moving in harmony with it. This is the third sign that you are becoming a truly profitable trader, not because of what you add, but because of when you add, not because of what you believe, but because of what the market confirms. When you add only when you're right, you have crossed a threshold that very few traders ever reach. You have stepped into a way of thinking that protects you from disaster and positions you for exponential growth. This is the point where discipline becomes instinct and instinct becomes wisdom. When you trade less, but earn more, there is a moment in every trader's evolution that feels almost unreal. A moment when your results begin to separate from your effort. A moment when you look at your journal and notice something strange. You traded less this week than ever before, and yet you earned more. At first, it feels accidental. It feels like the market just happened to move your way. It feels like a coincidence. But then it happens again, and again, and again. And slowly, almost cautiously, you begin asking yourself a question you never would have imagined at the beginning of your journey. How is it possible that trading less is making me more profitable? Jesse Livermore understood this mystery better than anyone. He believed that a trader grows not by adding trades, but by adding understanding. He said that the market does not reward movement. The market rewards timing, and timing does not come from doing more. It comes from doing less until the moment is undeniably right. When you begin to trade less but earn more, it means you are finally choosing quality over quantity. It means you have stopped chasing the market and have started letting the market come to you. In your early days, you believed action was progress. You thought the more charts you opened, the more trades you entered, the more setups you took, the more professional you were becoming. You wanted to feel active, to feel engaged, to feel like you were working hard. But the truth is, most of that activity came from fear, from impatience, from a mind that could not sit still. Your hands were moving faster than your understanding. You were fighting the market with volume instead of precision. Livermore wrote that the busiest trader in the room was usually the most desperate one, and the quietest trader was usually the most prepared. Over time, something changes. You begin recognizing that most of the market's movement is noise, shallow, irrational, directionless. You start seeing how often the chart moves without meaning. You notice how price jumps on nothing, pauses on nothing, and reverses on nothing. You begin to realize that a huge portion of your old trades were simply reactions to this noise. They weren't trades based on conviction. They were trades based on boredom, fear of missing out, or an urge to feel productive. When you evolve past this stage, you begin filtering. Your standards rise. Your selectivity strengthens. You stop giving your time, your attention, your capital to anything that doesn't meet your criteria. And as your criteria sharpens, your trade count drops. But the most incredible part is what happens to your winners. They grow because you are no longer focusing on catching everything. You are focusing on catching the right things. You are no longer spreading your attention thin. You are concentrating it like a laser on the moments that matter. This is the moment Livermore called the operator's awakening. He said a real operator may take only a handful of trades in a month, but each one carries the weight of deep preparation, clear timing, and absolute discipline. When you begin trading less but earning more, your mind becomes calmer, your emotions become keener. You spend more time observing and less time doing, and your trades stop being impulsive and start becoming strategic. You learn to wait for the market to align with your thesis. You wait for the structure to develop, for the volume to confirm, for the price to behave the way true opportunity behaves. You stop trying to anticipate everything and begin letting the tape lead. The truth is simple, but difficult for beginners to accept. Most of the time, there is nothing worth trading. Most days are not opportunity days. Most setups are incomplete. Most movements are traps. But the mature trader does not fear this truth. He embraces it. He understands that the market creates a handful of meaningful opportunities each month, and that capturing those opportunities is enough to make an entire year profitable. Livermore said, "The big money is made in the waiting and kept in the sitting." And once you understand this truth, your entire relationship with the market changes. You no longer feel pressure to be everywhere. You no longer feel the need to be constantly involved. You no longer measure your success by how often you trade, but by how well you trade. You discover something liberating, something almost paradoxical. The less you trade, the less you lose. The less you lose, the less emotional damage you accumulate. The less emotional damage you accumulate, the clearer your judgment becomes. Your clarity leads to better entries. Your better entries lead to better results. And your better results reinforce the mindset that helped you improve in the first place. It becomes a feedback loop, a cycle of improvement that compounds quietly in the background. You learn to trust the flow of the market. You begin to see that good trades are not found, they are revealed. They appear in front of you. When the conditions are ready, you stop grabbing, you stop forcing, and instead, you wait for the trade. That feels inevitable. This sense of inevitability is one of the clearest signs you are maturing as a trader. When you stop convincing yourself and start listening, when the setup speaks loudly enough that your doubts go silent, when nothing feels rushed and everything feels aligned. It is like a click inside your mind, a subtle shift, where the market and your intuition fall into sync. That is when your winners begin to outrun your losers, not because you are trying harder, but because you are trying less and seeing more. There is a grace to this stage, a quiet élégance, a rhythm that feels steady and controlled. You begin letting the market exhaust others while you stay fresh. You let the crowd chase meaningless moves while you preserve your energy for the rare moments that truly matter. One day you wake up and realize something remarkable. You are no longer chasing the market. The market is coming to you. And in that moment, you understand what Livermore meant when he said, "A trader profits not from movement, but from direction." Direction is rare, and the rare is worth waiting for. Trading less, but earning more, is not an accident. It is not luck. It is the natural result of becoming the kind of person who can see clearly and act precisely. This is the fourth sign. You are becoming a profitable trader, not because of how much you do, but because of how much you no longer need to do. You have learned the art of letting go, the art of waiting, the art of choosing only what aligns with truth. And the moment you master that, the market begins to reward you, almost in spite of your effort, because you have finally stopped chasing noise and started aligning yourself with signal. When silence becomes your greatest signal, there is a moment in every trader's evolution when silence stops being empty and starts becoming information. A moment when the quiet parts of the market feel louder than the noise ever did. At first, the silence feels uncomfortable, like standing still in a world that is rushing past you, like you're missing something, like you're supposed to be doing more, clicking more, tracking more, catching more. But eventually, almost mysteriously, you begin to notice something. The more you listen to the silence, the more the market begins to make sense. The patterns feel clearer, the signals appear earlier, your mind feels sharper, your decisions feel calmer. This is the final sign that you are truly becoming a profitable trader, not when you learn to act, but when you learn to listen. Jesse Livermore understood this better than anyone. In the chaos of the bucket shops, in the madness of Wall Street, in the 1,920 seconds, in the noise of crowds shouting orders, and tickers whipping out endless numbers, he learned to listen beneath it all. He wrote, "The tape whispers before it speaks," and he believed that silence was the only state of mind that allowed him to hear those whispers. As a trader matures, you begin to understand what he meant. You start recognizing that silence is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of clarity. It is the moment before the storm forms, before the trend erupts, before the crowd wakes up. Silence becomes the environment where your awareness sharpens. You stop filling the quiet moments with fear or impatience. You start filling them with observation. You let your eyes rest on the chart without trying to force meaning into it. You let price action unfold at its natural pace. You let structure breathe. You let momentum reveal itself. And in that space, something remarkable happens. Your mind begins to connect dots that you could not connect when you were rushing. You begin to see what others miss. You begin to sense what others ignore. You begin to feel the rhythm of the market. This rhythm is subtle, soft, almost hidden. It lives in the pauses, in the hesitation of price, in the way volume dries up before a turning point, in the way volatility compresses before a breakout, in the way the market tests your patience before rewarding your discipline. Only a quiet mind can recognize this rhythm. Only a patient trader can interpret its meaning. There comes a day when you sit in front of your screen and feel no urge to act, no urge to push, no urge to chase. You simply sit and watch and breathe. You realize the market does not always demand your involvement. Sometimes it only demands your attention. You begin valuing observation more than participation. And that shift is the final step into the mindset of a profitable trader. Livermore believed that silence was not passive. It was preparation. He would often sit for hours, doing nothing, while others around him were trading frantically. They mistook urgency for mastery. He understood that urgency is simply fear in disguise. The more he matured, the more he relied on silence to guide his actions. He sought stillness, because stillness is where the truth hides. The truth of a trend, the truth of a reversal, the truth of accumulation, the truth of exhaustion, the truth of strength, the truth of weakness. All of these truths appear first, in the quiet parts of the chart, before they explode in the visible ones. When you develop the patience to observe without demanding action, the market becomes readable in a way it never was before. Something else happens too. Your emotional reactions diminish. When the market pulls back, you don't panic. When the market surges, you don't chase. You are centered, grounded, neutral. You see price, not as a threat or opportunity, but as a message you can understand. Only when you listen without fear, silence becomes your teacher, your mentor, your guide. You begin to understand why Livermore often left profitable trades untouched, even when they looked complete. He wasn't ignoring the market. He was listening to it. He was waiting for the tape to tell him that the move was truly over. Hey, trusted silence. More than excitement. The experienced trader knows that excitement screams. Butaccuracy whispers. The inexperienced trader hears only the scream. The evolved trader hears only the whisper. And as you transform into that trader, you begin making decisions that feel different, cleaner, sharper, less emotional, more inevitable. You start recognizing that the best trades don't feel like adrenaline. They feel like clarity. They feel quiet. They feel obvious. In a way that is almost anticlimactic. You click the button. With the same piece, you would sign your name. This is the point where silence becomes your greatest signal. The point where noise is no longer your trigger, and calm is no longer your weakness. The point where your mind becomes an ally instead of an enemy. It is the moment when you realize that the market does not test your intelligence. It tests your inner stillness. The trader who can hear the market before it moves is the trader who has mastered the silence within himself. And when you reach this state, you understand something that beginners cannot comprehend. You understand that the market never needed more analysis. It needed less noise. It needed less ego. It needed less fear. It needed less excitement. It needed more space for the truth to reveal itself. You realize that profitable trading is not fast. It is not loud. It is not chaotic. It is quiet. It is patient. It is meditative. It is a form of listening, more than a form of doing. Livermore said, "A man who cannot be silent cannot make money." And he was right. The more silence you cultivate, the more clarity you gain. The more clarity you gain, the more precision you achieve. The more precision you achieve, the more consistent you become. This is the final sign. You are becoming a profitable trader, not because of how loudly you act, but because of how deeply you listen. Not because of how fast you trade, but because of how patiently you wait. Not because of how many trades you take, but because of how many trades you ignore. You have evolved. You have changed. You have crossed a threshold that very few traders ever reach. You have learned to trust the quiet, to listen to the whispers, to see the truth before the crowd sees the movement. And when you arrive here, profit is no longer your pursuit. Profit becomes your echo, the natural reflection of the person you have become, the disciplined one, the patient one, the observant one, the silent one, the profitable trader.